Welcome to the midweek check-in of Democracy-ish with my fantabulous co-host, Danielle Moody. Danielle Moody also has the Damn Digest on Substack. You must subscribe, and also the Danielle Moody Show on YouTube. Folks, before we begin and talk about the greatest cover-up, we've been saying it since the summer, and I think it's been proven, the greatest cover-up in modern history, one of the great cover-ups, the Epstein cover-up of the Epstein Class, as coined by Ro Khanna, an international cabal of the world's most powerful and wealthy people who believe they are held, they have no accountability. They can rape and pillage the earth and satiate their appetites. We're witnessing right now our Attorney General, I want to put in that quotation marks because she doesn't deserve that title, Pam Bondi. Literally in real time, folks, you're seeing a cover up. She's a deer in headlights. This is going terribly for her in the Trump administration. We're going to talk about all of that. But before we do, some really sad news. I just want to switch gears.
I know what you're going to say.
I am old enough, Danielle, that I remember in high school, me and my friends saw the first season of Dawson's Creek, which was the hot show. We all had crushes on Katie Holmes and Michelle Williams. Yeah, and then the lead, Dawson, was James Vanderbeek. And the reason why I say is because we just found out that James Vanderbeek has died at the tender age of 48. He was suffering. I've been following his story for the past year. He had, I believe, stage. He had cancer. He suffered from cancer. I want to make sure I get the right cancer, but we saw him and, colorectal cancer. He was diagnosed with colorectal cancer in 2023. He made his diagnosis public in 2024. Several months ago, he had just withered away, lost so much weight. And that type of cancer in particular, I mean, the odds of surviving it are very low. He died at the age of 48. Cancer is one of the top 3 killers of human beings. My daughter, for those who don't know, thank you to the nearly 5,000 people watching. My daughter is 9 years old. She's a stage 4 liver cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 2, right before she was turned 3, in a very rare form of cancer that only afflicts a very few children, hepatoblastoma. She's only alive thanks to a liver donor who anonymously stepped up and gave a piece of his liver. That liver donor, we got to know him, Sean Zahir, because we found out, Danielle, the liver grows back. I had no idea. So she's alive, knock on wood, Nuseba, she's age 9, but James Vanderbeek, age 48, colorectal cancer, very painful. So really sad. I saw him he was selling things to pay for his treatment.
Yeah, he was having to, he sold his own Dawson's Creek memorabilia for his cancer care. And it just again, you think about him, you think about, the popularity of the show, the wealth and the fame that came along with that show. And in his own struggle, because of our broken healthcare system, that he was having to sell his own memorabilia for his care. And, I want to say this before we tackle the politics of the day. I'm visiting my family right now, and my mom and I were talking about, the fact that she's like, Danielle, while all of this horrific Epstein saga has been unfolding, she's like, did you see what the Trump administration did with the USDA and what they did with Big Ag in allowing the forever chemicals and allowing these toxins to be sprayed on all of our food, our produce, and not having to identify what those toxins, what those forever chemicals are on, and they just in the middle of the night, in the middle of the mayhem, the chaos that they've created, they've done this. And I said to her, and I'm like, and this is why when I went and folks, everyone who is in the age bracket of the 40s, and some who are younger, which is what my doctor said, need to go for a colonoscopy. You used to wait until you were 50, and now they're telling you don't. And
45.
Why is that? Because the food that we are eating is filled with chemicals in the United States. It is filled filled with carcinogens that are purposefully created to make the food cheaper for these companies, right? So all about their bottom line, and it's killing us. And it's killing us. And there's a rise in rectal cancer and colon cancer and stomach cancer in younger people. And yes, to somebody in the comments said it cannot be washed off. It cannot be washed off. And we don't even know, for those that are like trying to be health conscious and, oh, let me go organic, or let me do this, or let me do that. They are purposefully keeping the information from us so that we get sick. So we can't even make conscious decisions if we want to. And so it's just a reminder with his horrible, the passing. And I say it's horrible because 48 is really young, um, to die. And it's just, and the fact that he made his story public, was to raise an alarm and hoping that his journey could help other people. And it's very sad.
And and
Very, very sad.
and folks, it is connected to what we're witnessing because the Trump administration, Republicans gutting the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. They don't believe in climate change. They say it's a hoax. They're for deregulation. He pardoned an individual who was found for polluting the waters. Pardon him. They don't give a rat's about our children, about our health, about our safety, about our food, about our air, about our water, about clean energy. They're enemies of all this because they want more, more and more and more. That's Epstein Class. I don't care. And furthermore, the way they justify it is twofold. Number one, I'll be dead, so I'll get mine. Or they are white Christian nationalists and believe, well, Armageddon's around the corner anyway. We have to hasten the end and bring about the end of times vis-a-vis the revelations, right? And so, well, the earth is here to be pillaged. We're not going to be around forever. Let's bring back the kingdom of God on earth. And as such, we must become fascists. I'm not making that up, folks. So either way, they rationalize the raping and pillaging of the earth, the pollution of the earth, the pollution of our food. And then when it comes to healthcare and how it ties to this Epstein class, I want to remind everyone, 2026, the Republicans, Danielle, they passed the big billionaire bill, which is the greatest wealth, not just transfer, theft. That's history. And they're going to pay for permanent tax cuts for the wealthiest people on earth. They don't need this shit, folks. It's just more. I just want you to realize more, more, and more, right? How are they going to pay for it? Oh, $1 trillion gutted from Medicaid. However, Daniel, as they are gutting $1 trillion from Medicaid and they can't find money to fund the Obamacare subsidies. They can't do that. But you know what they found money for? Big billionaire bill? $170 billion for ICE and detention centers. And now you're seeing these detention centers that we've been talking about on Democracy Issue, these concentration camps. Now they're being expedited, right? Now you're seeing ICE literally kill Americans on the streets. So they find money for wars. They find money for ICE. Benjamin Netanyahu is visiting folks. Yep, war criminals visiting right now. He had a meeting with the Witkoffs and Jared Kushner yesterday. Why? Because of business. Donald Trump and the Trump administration last week bypassed Congress, found billions of dollars, Danielle, for Israel, which is committing a genocide. But we are told no money for USAID. As a result, USAID was killed by Elon Musk and Doge. At least, folks, as of now, at least 500,000 people have been killed, mostly kids. They were getting medicine. They were getting medical treatment. It was a drop in the bucket. It was chump change. It was nothing, right? Bezos, chump change. He could single-handedly last week funded the employees of Washington Post. But no worries. He has his billions in Blue Sky Origin. He found $75 million to make Melania the documentary, right? Donald Trump found $40 billion to bail out his friend Milei in Argentina. But when it comes to health, no money. And if James Vanderbeek, and we're going to get to the billionaire class, Epstein class, I think it's all connected. I want to build up your rage, people. I want to build up your rage.
You're doing a great job.
Speaking about cancer, I want to share this real quick. My wife is a doctor. F my life. I married one of the poor doctors. I didn't know. I thought all doctors made money. I had no idea until I
I never
married
heard of a poor doctor, Wash.
family med doctor. The pediatrician and
Oh.
family med doctor is the low on the totem pole. When I first saw her paycheck, that was the first time and only time I cried as an adult. Um, but through my wife, we get insurance. I want to be very transparent. I'm independent. Daniel, you know how it goes, right?
Yep. Yep.
So through my wife, we get insurance. My wife is not a crazy rich doctor, but compared to most people, I guess we could say we're privileged, right? Upper middle class. We have a home, not a big home, but we have a home. I'm able to pay the bills. Daughter gets diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't have insurance, effed, all right? Insurance got us access to healthcare. Because we're in DC, Virginia, we had access to Children's Hospital in Georgetown. All right. This is very important. Just stick with me, Danielle, for a second, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone else. All right. I got very lucky. Like the heavens opened up and I was struggling, independent writer in between jobs. You know how it goes. A month or two after my daughter gets diagnosed with cancer, CNN finally calls me and
Right.
says, "We
Yep.
want you to be a contributor." The money I got from being CNN contributor kept me out of debt because I'm like, man, I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy to save my daughter. So that money paid for half the treatment. Guess what? It still wasn't enough.
Yep.
We had to raise $106,000 on GoFundMe to cover the rest of the expenses and then also help pay for the surgery of the anonymous donor and the recovery. Like I offered $15,000, like almost like a reward. The person didn't ask for it, but I gave it to him afterwards, right? So to keep my family out of bankruptcy, Danielle, even with healthcare insurance, there are bills that came that my wife and I are like, how can this bill come even with insurance? That's the only thing that kept me out of bankruptcy. Now, I say all this because throughout the entire ordeal, we kept asking, my wife and I, imagine everyone else who gets cancer, who doesn't have my platform, who didn't have my reach where I asked for liver donors, right? Who didn't have a GoFundMe where people all around the world came in and gave $100,000. What happens to them? And then I want you to think about the Epstein class.
Yep.
They get billions. They are the richest people on earth.
Yep.
1% has more money in America, Danielle, than the entire middle class.
Yep.
The wealth gap has increased. They just funded both sides of the aisle. OpenAI and the tech bros have given $100 million to both the Democrats and Republicans. Watch out, folks. We've been talking about it all day on the left hook, right? And then you see this Epstein class realize the rules don't apply to us. We can
Mm-hmm.
get more, and more. We can rape girls. No one's going to stop us. We can traffic girls, Danielle. No one's going to stop us.
Everything has been a testing of the fence, right? Everything has been a testing of the fence. And then they're like, the
Well,
fence has
tell
no
me, tell me what you mean by the raptor
Oh,
testing of the
yeah,
fence.
the raptor testing of the Jurassic Park. Everything. And, if you remember first Jurassic Park, yeah, the raptor that was like learning to test the fence, to weaken it so that eventually, right, they could escape. And what the Epstein cohort, the Epstein pedophile cohort realized is that the security fence wasn't even on. Like the security fence wasn't even on. So they didn't even have to bother wasting time, to test what was happening and whether or not they would get caught, whether or not there would be repercussions, whether or not they were working out of the bounds of the law, because the security, the fence wasn't even on. And so like you look at this, and somebody said in the comment, Waj, as you were talking, is like, what happens if all of those privileged puzzle pieces didn't come together for you, your wife, and your kids at that time? And it's like, what would have happened is what happens to millions of people who get cancer. They die, right? And some it's because, well, it's incurable, and others it's because they just don't have the resources for the treatment. Like there was a commercial that came out, and it was supposed to be like this endearing commercial. And what it showed, and it was like the American Cancer Association, but what it showed was like people working with cancer. Like having to go to the low paying job, having to go to the cubicle job, like while you're trying to stay alive. And the commercial was supposed to be like endearing and heartwarming, and I was like, this is the most draconian shit I've ever seen. Like, what kind of society do we live in that when you get what I would imagine for you and your family was the worst fucking day of your lives to get this diagnosis, that you wouldn't even be given the latitude to be able to say that we can hunker down as a family, pray, eat nutritious food, take her to the doctors, do all of these things without also having to clock in, right? Like, you should be able to figure out, like, we should live in a society that is about collective care and like, and helping the most vulnerable, helping the most marginalized. And it shouldn't have even been a thought about money. It should, all the energy should have gone into like, how do we care for her? Right. And that to me is what's sick, because they have normalized that in our culture. This Epstein pedophile predator class of people that control everything, every bit of technology, every bit of information, every like lever of power. They have conditioned us into
That's right.
believing
That's right.
that our suffering is normal. That's the price of doing business. And by the price of doing business, that's just the price of being alive. That suffering is normal in this state of being. And I'm like, but they've caused the suffering. They've created a pay for play healthcare industry that is run by that is run by big business, right? That it isn't about the cure. It's about keeping you just sick enough so that they can make more money. It is about being in the healthcare industry, being in cahoots with the big ag business. And that is like, and that is all about keeping you sick and keeping you tethered to a system that like just sucks the life out of you until you have none. So I'm just like, it's but they've conditioned us to believe, Waj, that all of this is normal. That like, oh, otherwise it would be socialism. And we don't want to be seen as socialists, Waj. Right? So we can't have health care for all. We can't have Medicaid for all because then we would be socialists. And I'm like, sign me the fuck up.
You know what? It's the creation of a permanent servant class. And like you said, and we've talked about often, we've been conditioned. You have to work at specific jobs to earn health care. If you're lucky, even though we pay taxes and the rich don't pay their taxes, but because they're rich, somehow they're better than us, they're smarter than us, God loves them more, they deserve nice things. So the way out of this hellhole is to become rich, right? That's the whole,
Yep.
that is the entire flawed, rigged game. And I think what's so important about this Epstein cover up and the revelation of this Epstein cover up is what we're seeing is that it wasn't a conspiracy theory in a way. It is the rich and the powerful who literally control everything. They see us as a servant class. They don't care about us at all. They're telling us they don't care about us. They don't care if we live or if we die. They have this really absurd, nihilistic, not just absurd, nihilistic, perverse, amoral view of humanity. The ends justify the means. A bunch of us have to die to preserve the future of humanity. They don't even believe in preserving us here on Earth. They think Earth is a wrap, folks. If you've been following the left hook, we've been talking about if you followed Demarxation on Monday, you had Nafiz on. Fantastic a guest who talked about the alt-right, their end game, Silicon Valley, the connections to Epstein and how it's roiling the UK, right? And they believe, the world is our oyster. We'll slurp everything up and then we'll
Yeah.
go colonize other Earths,
Yeah.
right? And then we'll replace human beings with AI. And then the humans who want to revolt against us, we have AI soldiers. We don't need you. You're going to work for us until you get sick and then you're going to die. Folks, life expectancy in America has gone down by nearly 2 years. We haven't even talked about my daughter survived thanks to, and I swear this is going to lead up to the Epstein class and Pam Bondi. We're just riling you up. My daughter survived thanks to research because it was such a rare type of cancer that after they took out her tumors, there were tumors all over her liver. They said, can we study it? Meaning, if God forbid my daughter had that cancer even 5 to 10 years before, I don't think she would have survived. It was based on the research by brilliant people that they had kind of understood this disease to the point where they could adapt and evolve and save her life. RFK has single-handedly come in and dismantled the Health and Human Services, dismantled CDC, dismantled NIH, canceled millions of dollars
Yep.
from cancer research, right?
Yep.
Vaccine hesitancy has gone up, measles have gone up. All the brilliant people are being poached by China, Japan, and Europe. The war on immigrants is also a war on our economy, on our health, because a lot of those brilliant men and women who are, wait for it, doctors like my father-in-law and people in my family came to America with their brilliance and became leaders in the field of medicine and technology. All that is going in favor of what? Hollowing out everything for the appetites of the billionaire class. And they don't care about literally anybody. In fact, they don't even care about the girls that they raped. They so don't care about the girls who are now women that when those women were standing behind Pam Bondi and one of the elected officials asked them to stand up, she didn't even look at them. We are witnessing the greatest cover up in political history, the cover up of the Epstein Class. You've been watching some of the highlights. I've been watching some of the highlights, Danielle. I think this is not going to go over well for Pam Bondi and the Trump administration. I
One,
mean, this is going to infuriate a lot of people.
she looked a mess, right? Like, and what I mean by that is like stuttering, doesn't have her stuff together, being called out this way and that way on everything that she is fucked up on, refused to take any responsibility. I mean, the fact that, here's what I'll say. The fact that you wanted to say, start off your appearance with apologizing to the Epstein victims. The victims are in the room with us. It's like, is it in the room with us now? Yes. The Epstein victims are in the room with us now. And you can't turn your head to the side, to the back, to say, I apologize. And by the way, like, that's the bare fucking minimum. Like, I mean, that the floor, it's the bare minimum. She can't do that. Because in their minds, and this is, I mean, it goes into the entire, like, bigger issue of it all. They don't see us as human. They do not care about those women. They do not care. And what I put this out earlier today, Waj, because yesterday I felt crazy. There are some days there I like wake up and I just feel insane, where I'm just like, we are living in a society that is being run by a human trafficking pedophilia ring based on, like, with their white nationalist desires, fascistic goals, techno-fascist, like, insatiability, like all of these things. It's all layered. They're all part of the same sick, twisted web. Like all of these different Peter Thiel, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, like they all have their own different desires, but the goal is the same, which is domination,
That's right.
domination and oppression. For Jeffrey Epstein, it was domination and oppression and the breaking of democracy so that he could rape whoever he wanted to, build stables of women so that he could seed a super white class of people, right? Like that was his goal. Then you have like Peter Thiel, right, who is like, I democracy shouldn't exist because I don't want to be bound by the laws
Yep.
of any country of any space, and I want to have my own fiefdoms. We need to have our own private prosperas and our own praxis and our own this that are bound by the laws that we create, right? So like, who cares? Climate change be damned. Poverty be damned. Sickness be damned. Right? Like nothing can get in the way of my innovation, right? So that's his driving force. They all have their drivers, but at the core where they all meet in the middle on is the breaking of democracy, a lawless society, so that they can do whatever the hell they want. And that doing depends on what their fucking kink is, right? Like that's where they differ, some of them. But it's sick to me. And I wanted to go out into the middle of the street yesterday and scream because I was just like, how are we continuing to operate like normal? How is Donald Trump giving a State of the Union in 2 weeks?
Mm.
And like people are attending. How is he holding like a governor's dinner as if we are a country, like a connected, unified country
Keep
right
going.
now?
Keep going. 10 seconds. You keep going.
Yeah, just like I don't understand it. And for those that are watching, like these are the thoughts that kind of move through my mind on a regular basis, which is like, how are we continuing to operate in this country like all of this is normal? And the way that they are trying, folks, and this is what I said earlier today with Mary Trump, we need to echo and amplify how fucking morally bankrupt this country is right now. We need to echo and amplify the reality that they are trying to normalize pedophilia, right? They are trying to normalize, right, and create this idea from a Megyn Kelly. Well, they were just barely legal, right? Like, oh, here's the language. Jeffrey Epstein was procuring, sex from a child. That's not like, what
How
is
old is
and
15?
right.
How
And
old
what
is
and
15?
I was just saying, and that's their issue. Like, what is a child really? Is what they are asking us to grapple with right now, as if we're the ones that are crazy for thinking that it's an issue that the sitting president of the United States is mentioned over 1 million times. And we have in a dozen countries that are starting their own investigations, are investigating their leaders for way less, right? Way
UK.
less.
Heads are rolling in UK. Lord Mandelson, gone. Criminal investigations as to the ties of Lord Mandelson and Epstein. What did he know? The alleged secret, or excuse me, sensitive information that Lord Mandelson passed off to Jeffrey Epstein. Why are you passing sensitive government information to a pedophile? How come Jeffrey Epstein has his fingers in all the honey jars all around the world? How does he know about Brexit? How does he know about all these deals? Why is Jeffrey Epstein the one telling Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, about Palantir? Why is Palantir right now getting a massive contract in England? Why is Palantir getting billions of dollars from the United States government? Peter Thiel, the co-founder of Palantir, what's the depth of your relationship? How come there haven't been any investigations? And, Danielle, speaking about this Epstein class and what folks who've been, following, there was some fantastic back and forth. We'll give you some of the highlights. But I think it was about 2 days ago, Danielle,
Mm-hmm.
I did a Blue Sky post because, we've been following this for a while, since the
Mm-hmm.
summer. And my wife said, like, why did this post that you went like crazy viral? I'm like, what are you talking about? You said that Leon Black, I said, Leslie Wexner, billionaire who's still alive, the head of Limited and Victoria's Secret, gave Epstein hundreds of millions of dollars during his lifetime,
The
and
house.
also and
Yes.
al- also gave Epstein the $70 million New York townhouse, which was seen as the crown jewel of New York real estate, for free, which Jeffrey Epstein used, by the way, to rape girls. Ehud Barak visited him at the New York townhouse. Leon Black, Apollo investment, right? Private equity investor, gave Epstein more than $170 million for tax and estate planning. Leon Black is still alive. Leon Black also partied with Donald Trump. Where? In Russia. Leon Black apparently connected Epstein to Brad Carr. Brad Carr was, as of last week, the head of Paul Weiss. Paul Weiss is the massive global corporate law firm, which was the first law firm last year to bend the knee and give Donald Trump pro bono work. Well, we found out, thanks to the Epstein files, that Brad Carr was in communication with Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein helped Brad Carr get into an exclusive golf club, and Brad Carr tried to email Epstein to get his son into a Woody Allen movie. Brad Carr is gone, right? Like we said, Lord Mandelson is
Yep.
gone. A few people in Denmark, someone's head just rolled, right? But a question that Massey and others asked, and specifically actually a question, this was a fantastic back and forth. I don't know if you saw this. It was between Representative Becca Balint, a Democrat for Vermont, was how come Howard Lutnick a billionaire psychopath who is Donald Trump's Secretary of Commerce, who visited Epstein on the island, had communications with Epstein, and wait for it, lied about it. How come he is still the Secretary of Commerce in the Donald Trump administration, Danielle?
Well, because according to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, there's not a crime in partying with Jeffrey Epstein or visiting his island, which is really interesting because France, Poland, Lithuania, Switzerland all think that actually it is a fucking crime, right? To knowingly engage in activities with a known and convicted sex trafficker and pedophile. And that is what Ted Lieu said following. Representative Ted Lieu said after after Todd Blanchett said, "Oh yeah, it's not a crime, so there's nothing to investigate here, folks." And again, that was the normalization that Todd Blanche did on the Sunday talk shows, not this Sunday, but the Sunday before, 2 weeks ago, after the 3 million file dump, when he said, "That's it, folks. No, it's not. You only gave us half," right? And what Representative Raskin said this week was, so explain to me why you redacted 95% of the mentions of Donald Trump.
Mm.
And that what we are seeing in the unredacted files is that his name was mentioned over 1 million fucking times.
Yep.
So you have the Department of Justice telling us, well, so all of these people have been named. Ro Khanna, who you spoke to, is saying these are all co-conspirators,
Six.
right?
He named six of them.
6 of them on the House floor
And he
yesterday.
found, like, if I may, Danielle, him and Massey found those names 2 hours. They went to Skiff. They had 2 hours. They found those names, and they asked today, how the hell did we find those names in 6 hours? These names that were redacted by the Justice Department.
And you've had a year and 2 months.
And you
You've had
didn't
a year.
redact. And why did you redact them? Why did you redact these 6 names? And one of the 6 names, anyone want to take a guess? Drum roll. Leslie Wexner, who is still alive. So what that shows you, what the cover up, those 6 names real quick, Danielle, before, I want to remind people that last year, and Allison Gill did some great reporting on this. Last year, around this time, springtime, the Justice Department got a whole bunch of FBI folks. They could not leave the room, according to Allison's reporting, for 24 to 48 hours. Now, you would think they would have one job: investigate and these survivors, have accountability. Oh, no, no, no. The one job that they had was to find and redact the name of Donald Trump. And now we know not just Donald Trump, but other high-level, wealthy, powerful individuals. Those names were redacted by the Justice Department. We still don't know why. Then you release the files. But what they didn't redact, and this is why another really powerful moment in today's whatever that was, hearing circus, is the Justice Department last week, when they released a smidgen of the files, they protected Donald Trump. They protected these wealthy businessmen. They protected Leslie Wexner. You know who they didn't protect? You know whose name and private information they revealed?
Victims?
The victims. And Representative Jay Paul, I think today, gave an opportunity to Pam Bondi to apologize to the victims. She didn't.
But here's the thing. Everyone, and follow me, folks, because everybody wants to think that this is a mistake, right? That they mistakenly didn't redact the names of the victims and provided their personal information, their addresses, etc., blah, blah. Oh, look how stupid and incompetent the Department of Justice is. Folks, they weaponized this. It was a strategy. It was a strategy. This was a way to tell those women to shut the fuck up. Because oopsies, now all of the crazies that they've had to deal with that have been doxing them, that have been harassing them, like, we just let it loose. And we let it loose in all of this documentation, right? All of these heinous things that happen to you. So they purposefully re-traumatize these women to make them a target while they were protecting the predators, because that has been That has been the entire purpose of their Epstein charade and farce. It has been for them to go in to protect and cover up Donald Trump, to use their right-wing media ecosystem to normalize their fucking heinous and horrific behavior, to gaslight the rest of us so that absolutely nothing happens. And they tell us, oh, you can't lock somebody up for partying, but they want, like, folks,
Rage,
you had
rage built.
you had a representative, I don't even know what this MFer's name was, that decided that he said he wanted to open up an investigation, Waj, into Bad Bunny because of the lyrics that he used. At the Super Bowl, and this is of course a Republican, and I'm like, you are so, like, it's so, there's stupidity, it's so fucking cartoonish at this point. You got a million reasons to open up an investigation into Donald Trump. You got a million people to follow as co-conspirators, right? And this is what you want to, once again, let's throw the racism in the water like chum for their sharks so that they distract. It is, I'm telling you, it is insane. Every single person needs to go to jail. They need to be under a jail. Pam Bondi is the ringleader behind all of this. I got the files
Absolutely.
on my desk. Here are the empty 3-ring binders to their right-wing influencers to turn around and say, "Oh, well, we don't have any new information here."
But look at this. As this is happening, folks, I mean, so many things are happening at the same time. Pam Bondi, as Attorney General, is revealing to the world her only job is to defend Donald Trump and a cabal of pedophiles and criminals, and to prosecute any and all of his critics. Bullshit investigations into Don Lemon, bullshit investigations into Letitia James, James Comey. You've seen now all of this is being thrown out, thrown out, thrown out. You saw yesterday a judge threw out the bullshit investigation into Democrats who called
This it,
upon
yeah, yep.
members of armed services not to obey illegal orders, right? The revenge tour, as someone said, is falling flat in courts. But as this is happening, Howard Lutnick, still Secretary of Commerce, Benjamin Netanyahu in the Israeli government, which, you know, is doing a genocide with our money, and the deep ties between Epstein and Israel. Yesterday, I had Prem Takar on. I hope everyone watches that. Guess who's visiting the White House? War criminal Benjamin Netanyahu, meeting with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and their sons. All of those people have made billions of dollars. Specifically, Donald Trump and the Witkoffs have made $5 billion through crypto. All these criminals are getting pardoned by Donald Trump. CZ of Binance, pardoned. Ex-president of Honduras, pardoned. All these rich people who gave money to Donald Trump, pardoned. But they want to do investigations into Bad Bunny and Don Lemon and Letitia James. It's a fascist government. And we just found out right now, speaking about the pressure, right? They wanted to pressure not, the pedophiles. They want to pressure and intimidate the victims, which is why they released the information. That Justice Department is not investigating Officer Ross, the man who murdered in cold blood Renee Nicole Good. They're investigating
Her
Renee
widow.
Nicole Good's wife,
Widow.
her
Mm-hmm.
widow, which has prompted career prosecutors to resign. And what we just found out as of an hour ago, Gallup will no longer measure presidential approval after 88 years. The Gallup poll has decided on a whim not to measure the presidential approval ratings after 88 years. Last month, when Gallup did its poll, I think it was Pew, excuse me, but the last few polls, Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating of his career, one of the lowest. So Gallup, just randomly today, Danielle, decided that, you know what? Who needs our very respected polls on the approval rating of the President of the United States of America? Danielle, your response.
You know, so here's my thing. Look, we we have got to stay focused, and we don't, we have to understand that legacy corporate media, all of these entities, they have bent the knee to this regime. They are absolutely and 100% complicit. I said this the other day. How is it that I'm looking at the front page of the New York Times? I'm looking at the front page of the Washington Post, which doesn't exist anymore in name only. I'm looking at all of these places and the Epstein story, and the fact that Donald Trump is linked to this is not front page news, right? How is the AP running today with their Donald Trump's Labor Department's job numbers and telling us like, oh, don't worry, we've added 30,000 jobs. Really? Because ADP said that we were careening towards a fucking Great Depression, right? That the jobs numbers are so bad that they're worse than during COVID. Right? So again, what they are doing is just lying to you. If we don't tell you that Donald Trump is doing a bad job, Waj, if we don't have these polls, then he must be doing amazing, right? Because there's going to be nothing to measure it against.
Or trust us, he's doing
Oh,
amazing.
trust us, he's doing amazing. It doesn't matter that you see militarized slave patrols in your streets. It doesn't matter that children are being ripped from their homes. It doesn't matter that we are spending more money in producing a genocide so that Jared Kushner can turn Gaza into a real estate gold mine, which is essentially a fucking graveyard. Like, I'm telling you, the goal, Steve Bannon said, flood the zone. Overwork them, re-traumatize, over and over and over again. Because eventually we will become so overwhelmed that we will literally just choose to numb ourselves, choose to look away, choose to bury our heads so that we don't have to deal with the veil that has been lifted and see the monster that is underneath. And I just want folks to understand, when I say the monster underneath, I want you to understand that I am not just talking about fucking Donald Trump. That
Nope.
do not just pin all of what is happening in America right now on Donald Trump and on the MAGA machine. This has been happening in America for generations. This has been a long-term process and plan of lifting up these systems of control, militarism, capitalism, racism. That has always been the goal. Donald Trump, the table was already set. He said, I'm going to gobble it all fucking in, right? I'm going to take everything because who's going to stop me? Like, folks have got to, because you got to stop believing that if Donald Trump drops dead tomorrow, that all of a sudden all will be well. It won't. This is a systemic problem. The soil, the earth, it is rotten to its fucking core. And the only way that we rid ourselves of this is to excavate. It's the only way. It is the only way.
And, I've been talking about this all day, Danielle. I had David on and I had Gil on just to prove Danielle's point, if I may. Center-left Democrats are striking back with a new group. This is from February 8th. Known as Next American Era, the group is the latest effort by moderate Democrats to shape national politics and expand their influence. Former Illinois Representative Sherry Bustos, ex-chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, will serve as the president. Sherry Bustos is also a lobbyist for, wait for it, OpenAI. Earlier today, speaking about the money that Palantir AI and the Broligarchy is spending, they have already spent over $100 million. Palantir executives and leaders from OpenAI and venture capital are wading into the political fray with more than $100 million already pledged by Leading the Future to boost candidates friendly to AI. They're also cutting big checks to congressional leaders and, wait for it, Donald Trump's political network. Joe Lonsdale, one of the founders of PayPal, is backing a Democrat to replace Newsom. Newsom has also taken money from Palantir and Musk and Thiel, and to this day has never, ever, ever criticized Thiel. And when given a softball down the middle a month and a half ago, will you tax the billionaires? They're part of the big tent. I want you all to keep your eyes wide
open.
This is not just Republicans and Trump and Lutnick. There's Israel's involved, Russia's involved, UK's involved, friggin' Prince Andrew was involved. Fergie sent him a really friendly message. You got journalists involved. You have people, you have all the tech Silicon Valley bros who are the titans of industry. These are the biggest corporations on earth. People like, OpenAI and Nvidia and Google and Meta, all these people. Who was in the front row of Donald Trump's inauguration?
That should have told you everything that you needed to know. On that dais, who sat there? Not his family, not his friends. Who sat there were the captains of technology. It was Tim Cook. It was
Sundar
Mark
Pichai.
Zuckerberg. It was Elon Musk, right? It was all of these men. It was Jeff Bezos and his fucking sick wife. Like, it was all of them sitting there, right? Saying, we bought him, right? We own this entire country. What I will say, slivers of good news, slivers, which is that one, Europe is deciding we don't want to be connected to these American companies anymore. We don't want you to own our intelligence and our data anymore. Why? Because we don't fucking trust you.
That's right.
Because you will hand over our sensitive information. Whenever Donald Trump says jump, you will say how high. So what is Europe deciding to do? They are cutting ties with Zoom. They are cutting ties with Microsoft Teams. They are beginning to cut ties with Palantir. They are cutting ties with American companies, and they're
rating Twitter.
Right. Twitter, France raided Twitter's headquarters. Like, they are cutting ties because what did Donald Trump want? He said, make America great again. America first. It's America alone, because the world is going to figure out how to operate without the United States at the center of the universe, right? What did we also see? Guess what else happened? Brazil has decided we're going to trade ourselves with China. We're going to develop our own trade deal. What is Brazil part of, Waj? BRICS. What has BRICS been trying to do? Trying to sideline the dollar, figure out how to stop using the US dollar as the singular trading currency.
China's openly saying it now. Openly saying it.
So what does that mean? Brazil just did a trade deal with China with their own fucking currency, right? And what is everyone else going to do? The same goddamn thing.
No, but this is, and also, folks, as the dollar has already weakened, as China now is openly saying, "Hey, man, you all are leaving the dollar. America's in the rear view mirror. The dollar should no longer be the national standard. What about us?" Right? That's what's happening right now. And furthermore, these a-holes, these supervillains, are banking on it. They want this to happen. They want to devalue the dollar because they want crypto to emerge as a destabilizing unit, a weapon, right, that helps them achieve what? Their techno utopia. So they've even rigged that game. They're like, wonderful, let's destroy the dollar. This is awesome for us. Let's just go rape and pillage, right? Shock doctrine, destroy, destroy, destroy. And with the Epstein files, we saw that Jeffrey Epstein wanted the destruction of the New World Order. And from the chaos, he wanted to build his type of perverse pedophile fiefdom, going back to your point, Danielle, where he could do anything and everything without any regulation and accountability. So he looked at crypto, he looked at online gaming, he looked at 4chan,
feeding his money everywhere.
Putin, whoever could destabilize the order, as he said in an email with Peter Thiel, right? Return to tribalism. And Peter Thiel in another email said, yeah, women and people of color voting, I'm not down with that, right? And his philosopher, Curtis Yarvin, who, by the way, J.D. Vance, the vice president, follows, says democracy is incompatible with capitalism. They're telling you it's all part of the Epstein class. And just to put a fine note on it, 2015, Jeffrey Epstein talks about the wild party he had with Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel. And there's even a photo. They didn't care that the man was a pedophile, as long as he could help their bottom line and their end game. We have to, I'm saying it straight up, legally and peacefully.
Say it.
We have to destroy these people.
Yes.
We have to crush Palantir. We have to crush OpenAI. We have to crush Peter Thiel. We have to crush Elon Musk. Our villain the supervillain is the Epstein class. We have to destroy them. And I know some people might not like this. The people who are collaborating with them, the people who are funded by them, the people on both sides of the aisle who are complicit and taking money from these people have to be outed, mocked, ridiculed, and shamed. The Democrats, there's a wide open lane, folks. Notice how few, if any, are critical against AI and crypto. Why?
Why? Because they
Follow
all have
the money.
fucking stock in it. Because how do you vote for a unregulated entity that has the potential to destroy humanity? Oh, because you have money in it, right? Folks, I'm telling you, the worst thing that we ever said as Democrats was vote blue no matter who.
Nope.
That era is dead. We are not voting blue no matter who. You need to read the fucking fine print. If these people cannot say, and Waj, I want you to go through your pillars, your 5 things that we need to look at with Democrats. If they can't say abolish ICE, if they can't say definitively that Israel is committing genocide, if they can't say to tax the fucking rich, right? Like, if they can't say these things definitively, they
Affordability
can't
and accountability with specifics.
accountability with specifics and the regulation or the termination of fucking AI. If they can't say these things, folks, right? If they are hemming and hawing, if they are not 10 toes down on this shit, they are not for us. It doesn't matter if they have a D behind their name. It doesn't matter. We are not voting blue no matter who, because you know who stood up in front of his fucking donors and said that his job as senator, right, was to do what? Was to fund Israel. That is what came out of the mouth of Chuck Schumer, a Democrat. Didn't come out of the mouth of a Republican. It came out of the mouth of him. That his job isn't to bring resources to New York, right? Isn't to hold Donald Trump accountable. His major job is to bring resources to Israel. So are you the senator of New York or you are the ambassador to Israel? Because you can't be fucking both.
He said, and I'm going to put you all think she's making it up. This was a February 2nd, 9 days ago. Schumer says his job is to fight for aid to Israel, said it at a breakfast, literally was videotaped, did not apologize for it. I tried to bring it up. Schumer is perfectly fine last summer taking a smiling photo with Netanyahu, the war criminal who's visiting right now, has not taken a photo with Mamdani. What more do you need to see? We'll end it this way because I have to run to stay overweight. I have to go to the gym to stay mildly overweight. Please be proud of me. Folks, we have primaries. It's 10 months. People say, what can we do? You raise hell. I'll give you an example. Ro Khanna, I give credit where credit's due. Ro Khanna is from the Silicon Valley. He's from the Bay Area. He's from my hometown. He's been funded by all these people. He sees where the wind is blowing. And as a result of seeing where the wind is blowing, he's responding. So he's come out and said, yeah, we should tax the billionaires. We should have transparency. We should abolish ICE. You've seen him go back and forth with me about genocide. He now says, yep, genocide. Yesterday he came on, Danielle, and in the summer I said, this is a cover up. And he said, Waj, in the summer, if you would have asked me that, I said, no, now you're right, a cover up. You pressure these people. You put the fear of God in them, right? And the fact that Ana Lilia Mejia won in New Jersey District 11
Yep.
and will fight for Mikey Sherrill's seat, they are terrified. APAC effed up. She's Latina. She's an organizer involved with the Working Families Party, progressive, openly says abolish ICE, right? So that's what we got to do. We got to just put the fear of God in them. And we have to make sure, because this is it, Danielle, 10 months, primaries. This is it. This is it.
Look, I echo every single thing that you said. And before we let you go run, there are 8,000 people that are watching right now. And I want to say to the 8,000 people that are watching, first, independent media is where everything is. Make sure that you have hit subscribe to The Left Hook, hit subscribe to The Damn Digest. Both Waj and I do this work for free. Our content is free. Why? Because we believe that critical thinking dies behind a paywall. So everybody who's watching right now, you like what you're hearing, you feel less crazy, hit subscribe to the Left Hook and to the Damn Digest. If you have the ability to become a paid subscriber, consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Left Hook and to the Damn Digest. Know that your money goes for us being able to tell the truth on a regular basis. It helps our audiences grow. It helps independent media grow. So if you have the ability to do that, become a paid subscriber. But know that all of our content is free, will remain free. Hit subscribe regardless of if you have the ability to pay.
Yeah, thank you all. I don't know what happened. I think Substack has opened up to new markets, which explains why we have so many people, 8,300. But welcome. Usually we have 2 to 3, which is already huge for us, but 8,300 and growing. This is grassroots, independent. Danielle and I have been doing Democracy-ish for, I think, 3 years. We haven't taken any corporate money, no corporate dollars. It's all independent, and we've made the deliberate decision, as Danielle said, to make everything free. Everything's free. And I think you know what? I will say this, Danielle. I think following our model, I have seen other people, Substack creators, say, "Oh, Waj and Danielle and a few others are okay," because I see them doing the same pitch as us, which is
Yeah.
fine. Share it. I great. Like because some people are like, "Oh, maybe I should make the comment section paywall. Maybe I'll just give them the lead." Some people do that. I don't want to shame them and judge them. You all have your business models, but we made the very deliberate decision, much to the pain and sadness of our
Of
immigrant
our
parents.
parents.
Like, literally, my parents were like, "Talk to Danielle. She seems smart. You're an idiot." And I said, "Danielle agrees with me." They're like, "Oh,"
Oh, God.
they're like, "No." So we believe that literally, with all this disinformation flooding the zone, as Steve Bannon said, people need to have information. It all begins with information. If you have the information, you're educated, you're informed, you can articulate this to your local officials. You can then convince other people. So that's what we try to do. You inform the people. You have a growing tide. People are pissed off. They're waking up. They're
Yep.
pissed off against ICE, against the oligarchy, against genocide. They say enough is enough. And this is how we put pressure then on our elected officials during primary season. And that's how we get change. I'm putting up my 25% off special, $3.75 forever, to lefthook.substack.com/special. But if not, free. Thank you all for joining us. There's 8,300 people. If you joined us late, this will be up later on Danielle's Substack and my Substack. And I'm done for the day. I've been going for 3.5 hours, but I'm done. I promise.
Amazing.
We'll be back Friday.
Join me at 5 p.m. on the Danielle Moody Show on YouTube and on Substack. Waj and I will be back on Friday, 12
12
p.m.
p.m.
Eastern.
Democracy-ish. Thanks all. Thank you, Danielle. Everyone, take care. And please, oh, please don't be a fan.
Be a fascist.